Welcome to the weekly wrap up. This is for the week ending the 16th of November. I am Jake Levin Payne, and today we're going to have for you in this presentation, late presentation, a Sunday taping. A story throughout the week in our daily show called Things You Might Not Have Heard, covering Facebook, X, and Threads feeds from November the 8th, that Friday, the 24th, 2024, to November the 15th, 2024. But not that one story that happened late on Friday, technically early Saturday. That will be covered. That was already covered in a video that's in our feed. So check that out. But you can also look for it tomorrow because it's definitely one of the top stories for the weekend, making it into the Monday gig. We'll explain that in a good moment. But our daily show, our weekday show called Things You Might Have Heard, is a podcast and a video that allows you to engage in stories throughout the span of time. And every day we give you an update on stories that you deem reviewing, rechatting up to get into here. So that's how this thing goes here. We'll explain the feeds and all the stuff in the end of the show. So stick around for all that one and find out how you can be engaged in these stories from the week that you may have forgotten about or you may have wanted to read about a whole lot and unfortunately bring them back up. Remind you that our website is this, it's conversationproject.com, more details about the Conversation Project and the things we offer every single day, plus our email address, the conversation inbox at gmail.com. Send us emails there as you feel deem fit. And of course, a special thanks to our partners at the end of today's show. Headline for story number one, and we are still in sort of a days of the election from at this point 2 weeks prior, but we're still counting votes, unfortunately, because it takes that long for all the people in the country. And what we have right now for the first story is the trifecta for Donald Trump. He essentially gets all three branches of the executive and legislative branch. He already kind of has the Supreme Court in his bag, but he wins the presidency, executive, and for legislature, the two houses, both the House and the Senate, now essentially belong to him. Now, they're still counting a couple more votes, but as of this posting here, we posted very early in the week. AP had a call of 214 of the needed 218 seats, and at this point in time, at the end of the week, they've got those 218 seats. The total numbers I don't have in front of me here, but with the elections and both chambers of the Congress being held by the actual Republicans, it's not going to be very hard for Donald Trump to push things through. In fact, that's part of what we'll get to another story while him pushing things through. The Senate Republicans have a 53-47 majority right now. They elected John Thune as their leader to succeed Mitch McConnell over the more Trumpy pick of Rick Scott. But that's one thing that Senate is using to basically show that they still have control. Although the Republican head for the House, to be Speaker of the House again, will probably be Mike Johnson. He was given that nomination. Hakeem Jeffries is still nominated for the Democrats, but we'll see when the numbers come out. And right now, the numbers are essentially on Republican side. So essentially, within a few weeks, they'll basically re-vote in Mike Johnson unless someone else comes in there. Now, a lot of other things are going to happen, including we'll talk about some of the votes that will happen to come for confirmation for people for the cabinet. When we talk about that part, we are highlighting one guy who was highly qualified and will probably make the cut. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of other folks who may or may not be able as well. There's a lot of people in there. We had a five-headed story throughout the week to get all the folks in. We're going to do it much quicker going forward. Punchline for the story number one is Mike Johnson will probably be your next Speaker of the House or Speaker of the House again. John Thune will be your next Senate Majority Leader. Donald Trump is your next president. Basically, all the chambers of Congress, the executive branch, and in theory, the Supreme Court, the judicial branch, all in control of one JT. Headline number two is a sort of a quirky thing, and it's just the order of things popping up here are literally really extremely random this week. They don't have any actual merit to what we're talking about or any sort of storyline. They're just the top stories as I swift them around. They ended up here. So why this one is second? It literally is just random. But here's the deal: how to change my vote. The search in your Google, in your Bing, in your Alta Vista spiked in states that were won by Donald Trump. So yeah. So as the election came up, searches for how to change my vote popped up particularly well on election day around 7 a.m. as people were basically deciding what was going on and continue to go throughout a few days. Essentially, people were going to the booth saying, I'm voting for someone. And just in case something weird happened, can I change it? Guess what? You can't. But this is a historical election, and historical spikes in the search brought a lot of concern to a lot of people. A lot of the pundits behind the scenes saying, "This is interesting." However, they went with the main headline, which was Donald Trump wins, yay, 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 or boo, 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 the way they went with that one. For the record, you can't change your vote once it's cast. That's sort of the point. So election interference didn't happen. Got caught at once. It's done. Of course, we're not talking election interference because Donald Trump won, and he won the popular vote by at least count around 7 million votes. So he has no reason to say anyone cheated because he won. If this had happened if it went the other way, probably not as easily. Let's move the headline in the spot for number 3 today. And this goes along the lines with the other stories because they all are connected in a sense. We did a lot of election stuff going on. It wasn't not so much the elections themselves this week, but election things that were kind of just conjured together. This was a story that got a lot of reaction from you guys in comments, mostly because it seems like although I do lean slightly to the right, slightly conservative. I'm an independent voter. I vote both ways, both parties, both ways, and I tend to watch more of the CNN and MSNBCs than Fox News, just because I like news coverage and the way it goes. Just sometimes it gets a trippy. But I'm apparently the only one because MSNBC's ratings went way, way down with viewership right after Trump victory. Essentially, is once Trump won, everyone who sort of cared from a liberal standpoint just sort of threw their hands up and went away. And anyone who was just basically scanning to see what the liberals were saying about Trump literally went away. And so the ratings dropped by about 54% in an average from last month to this month, basically right at the end of the election, at the time going forward. Average of 1.8 million viewers are down, just gone, not paying attention to what's going on, particularly on shows like Alex Wagner's Night, All In and Chris Hayes, and The Last Word at Lawrence O'Donnell. Now, there was a special edition of Rachel Maddow going through for the election, but 40 minutes into the show, they essentially said Donald Trump's going to win this. And later in the evening, it was all called by all places for Donald Trump. With that, the ratings on MSNBC went down, 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 as people were just essentially either just tired of it all, up on it, or didn't want to hear people like Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes actually have to hype up the next man, even though they're not quite hyping up yet, going forward. What does this mean for ratings and TV and cable news and newspapers and that sort of media in general? Doesn't mean much sense, but the overarching story of mainstream media and legacy media, it's a bad deal because in actuality, in most cases, this bump from election coverage should stay on all channels, all places for at least a week while they're doing all the talk about the people being put into the cabinet levels and some things that are happening inside the election. But almost instantly losing that election coverage, meaning no one seems to care or no one seems to believe what they're saying right now. And in some cases, comments, it's a little bit of both. Here's a headline that piqued my interest because of the funniness of the nature. And maybe I didn't quite deliver it with the funniness. Maybe I delivered it like it was sort of a straight story. And it may be a totally farce thing made up because Jesse Walker, whether you like him or not, tends to make things up, even if they're presented as real news. The headline for the story at number 4 is that Jesse Waters' mother disinvites him from Thanksgiving dinner after Trump win. And so the lighthearted story is the fact that after Trump wins the election, with Thanksgiving, 2.5 weeks away, Jesse Waters' mom said, "You know what? We don't have enough room at this table for you, so you might want to stay at home and eat with the wife, or check out the Waffle House, see if they got something going on for Thanksgiving." It was a funny line the way he presented it. It was something going on. Thing was going to basically saying, you know what, we're going to have a light dinner and go to Best Buy to do some Black Friday shopping, so you might want to stay home. But it did bring up some discussions online, and some of them more serious than not, over having to deal with situations where this is always the case. It's always been the case, dealing with people with different viewpoints, specifically political viewpoints, at large gatherings, especially people you don't see very often. You have a large family gathering where grandma has everyone at their house, and now the older children are doing most of the cooking. But you see aunts and uncles or folks from all over the place just at the house, that people you don't see very often. You're going to see that cranky uncle or that, gosh darn pucky young nephew who has some ideas about the other side, whatever other side it is, and you don't want to hear it. And that's essentially what they were saying. They didn't want to hear Jesse Waters at this table. Now, we take this as more of a joke going forward, and maybe Jesse Waters was had other plans, or is going to go to his mom's and just sort of just laugh it out there. But there are a lot of people in a lot of places who are going to have issues when they meet up with family they've not seen for a while. They have to deal with some of these discussions and deal with some sometimes right out fighting because there are some, from my point of view, scary things are coming from the side that won, and there have been scary things are coming from the side that didn't win if they had won as well. And what you want to believe, overhyped, overthought, oversaturated with tryptophan is going to be a big deal. So take your time this holiday season, the whole holiday season. Show some kindness and cheer and good luck and all those great things for folks who may or may not believe what you want because they're family or their friends, close acquaintances. There are people that you're not going to get rid of that easily. And hopefully, a little thing like an election is not going to get rid of them that easily. So take into account those folks and bring them closer to the fold. Excuse me. Um, late night fan of my own. Let's move on to some of the picks that Donald J. Trump is going to put into his next cabinet. Number 47, 45, which is a trial run, if you will, is going to bring in some people who are different from the last time, mostly because those people don't want to work for him or he doesn't want them to work for them, some combination of two. Senator from Florida, Marco Rubio, is set to be the Secretary of State. He's got the appointment. He'd be a very historic person as one of the highest ranking members of Latino descent in the actual cabinet. And it's basically running the show for the most part, other than the lady who was running the office for him as the chief of staff. Marco Rubio is basically running the show on the international scene, has everything going for him under his portfolio, assuming they don't pull Jared into other work as well. We are bringing up Mr. Rubio because one, there were some very, very terrible fights between the two, 8 years ago when they were running against each other, and somehow Rubio just sort of come to love his Mr. Uncle Donald. Two, Rubio was also rumored to be the vice president pick, or great pick for that. It would have been a great pick. But since both Trump is now in Florida and Rubio's in Florida, you can't have two people from the same state representing in that case. It just doesn't work out. There are rules about that. We won't go deep into that right now because there's a real deep discussion on that one. But the biggest issues that we have from these discussions are the people who have actually been put out there to be nominated for other jobs that may or may not make it based on your seriousness. There's Pete Hegseth of Fox News, who is up for grabs to take on the Secretary of Defense role. There is Tulsi Gabbard, who may be your next DNI. There is the Office of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, if you will, which is still an advisory office. So they don't have to take any real power, but it's being run by, or will be run by, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who swear they have plenty of power and $2 million worth of cuts. They're going to do it. And of course, the one that's out there as the red herring, the one that people are assuming this ain't going to happen, but it will help the other ones go down better. Matt Gaetz shall be, maybe, could be your next Attorney General of the United States. Now, this is going to take some confirmation. Most of these jobs take confirmation, except for Elon and Vivek. They can kind of say what they want to. But these jobs will take some oversight from the Senate, unless recess appointments goes through. Unless they get that, of course. But what was going to be the oddest thing is, although all those folks I mentioned have baggage, lots of baggage going forward for them, Matt Gaetz is the biggest one, as he'll take over the agency that months ago stopped the investigation unto him dealing with sex allegations and underage girls. As well as the House ready to release its actual report, because they still had a report on their ethics committee on that one, with Mr. Gaetz resigning a day prior, which means Gaetz is no longer a member of the House, so that jurisdiction no longer exists in the House. There's a report that they want to release that they technically can't because Mike Gaetz is not a member of Congress. They have no authority over him, no power here for Matt Gaetz, although many people still want to see it. Marco Rubio, more than likely going to make the cut. Of the five I gave you, two are just going to be there. They don't need oversight. The other two will probably be because Matt Gaetz will be so terrible that they have to let that slide. Although this is actually more of a test for Donald Trump, a loyalty test for the Republicans in Congress, whether they will do his bidding right now and push forth such outsiders as people in this cabinet, specifically someone so outside as Mr. Gates. Another Trump story, another election story, another interesting take that I had to kind of consider when I got some more comments on this one, because my original reaction was what the original commenter said. When Kid Rock is your voice of reason, we need to sort of rethink where we're going, because the guy, he does rap about strippers and getting drunk a lot. But your headline for story number 6: Kid Rock tells fellow Trump supporters most of our left leaning friends are good people. Kid Rock is the person who is the voice of reason. He's the voice who's bringing us together. He's saying in the aftermath of the election, the vocal supporter of the former president and now going to be again president, released a video to his fellow Trump supporters and telling the world, emphasizing, quote, "We must remember that the most of our left leaning friends are good people who want the same things in life as we do, but simply think differently on how to get there." The olive branch has been extended list of the kids rocks mentioning he's actually trying to unite people with reasoning and just the common sense, the common goals, the commonality we as Americans are. This contrast that of his provocative personal persona, of course, sometimes when it's time to offer a bridge, it's offer a bridge. It's easy to do that when you're the winning side. I will say it quite often. It's easy to ask for conciliation. It's easy to ask for reconciliation. It's easy to ask for forgiveness and for coming together when you're actually the ones that won, and you're the one that have the power to give the people who lost whatever it is they're maybe seeking, and the power to not give it to them. So it is. Quick pause from the news. 6 stories down, 6 stories to go, and we're going to get to you more great stories from the week that you guys engaged in, saw that were really conversational, and I thought were really needing a bit more of a tease, a tick, pace for this weekend. Right now, quick ask for you to help like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Like, share, and subscribe to the hot takes we have in video. Like, share, and subscribe to the things you might ought to know, the fun stuff we have, the daily stuff we have every day or weekday here on the Conversation Project. We are looking for your engagement, and your engagement means we get more better stuff. Now, very quickly, not going too deep into the actual numbers, so we'll do that in the promo part. But we're looking to hit some milestones over on YouTube. That's basically our ground, our measuring stick of what's going on. We're almost at the point for true monetization. Fingers crossed. That's for ads, and we're just a few watch hours away. And as we're looking for the timelines, we're seeing we're going to lose some big days that were early on in our broadcast life, and so that means we need a lot of people to check this out. So we need you to get more people watching us. That will help you out if you're watching this thing or hanging out with us at the Conversation Project, because more people in the conversations, more people to follow us in the feeds, more people to give us engagement and comments tells us more about us as people. Us is what we want to talk about. Us is what was really important, not just getting stuck on 6 stories that were the election, which is now 2 weeks away. There are still plenty of interesting and some obnoxious stories that we covered, but we need to know which ones you really want to talk about. Sometimes a lot of it gets lost in shuffle, because essentially, since Trump started nominating people, all the headlines on MSNBC, whose ratings are cratering, going lower, is just about how horrible these people are, which may help to see why the ratings are going so bad for MSNBC. Like the videos you're watching, so you can get more engaging news, and hopefully you believe I'm engaging. The stories you're picking are engaging, because you're picking stories you help us pick to make those work out. Share it with like-minded people who love more engaging news, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber right now, so we show up in your feeds when you're watching this on the X, watching this on Facebook, looking for hot takes on TikTok. Subscribe to what you're seeing out there so we get people engaged. Also, stop by our website. This is conversationproject.com, and you can find links to places that we may better be for you, like Threads, like Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky. Not sure how we're going to use Blue Sky, but we're on Blue Sky. We're on TikTok, and we got a lot of love on TikTok with the news cuts there. I'll find it there. So like, share, and subscribe so we have more conversationalists in the conversation. At number 7, this is a story that's grown on us quite a bit. We're going to talk about this and try to take it in the most sobering way we can. The headline for this is: FEMA supervisor fired under investigation after allegedly advising team to avoid homes with Trump signs. Let me read the actual writing from the robot editor before we do any commentary, so you kind of get the gist of the story. Much larger and much more disturbing than we really, even I want to even admit to, because it seems like a funny headline. Oh, there's so much more. In early November of 2024, a FEMA supervisor, Marty Washington, was dismissed for instructing disaster relief teams to avoid homes displaying Trump campaign signs in Lake Placid, Florida, following the Hurricane Milton. This directive led to approximately 20 homes being bypassed by federal registration, and FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell considered the action as a violation of the agency's core values, emphasizes the assistance should have been provided regardless of political affiliation, and of course, she was fired. Washington defended her actions by stating that avoiding in certain areas was a common practice with FEMA, particularly in politically hostile regions, to ensure workers' safety. She claimed that the policy, though unofficial, was widespread and aimed at prioritizing marginalized communities. Instead, prompted Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody to file a lawsuit against FEMA, alleging discrimination against Trump supporters and accusing it and the agency itself of withholding aid after Hurricane Helene and Milton. The lawsuit seeks damages for affected homeowners and has garnered support from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. In response, congressional Republicans, including Senators Ted Budd and Josh Hawley, not from Florida, have initiated investigations into FEMA's practices, expressing concerns over potential political bias in the agency. Final part, FEMA has denied the existence of any policy to avoid homes based on political signs and reiterated the commitment to assisting all disaster victims impartially. Agency has referred to the matter to the Office of Special Counsel for further investigation. Now, let's go back to Williams specifically. After the incident and after she was fired and after this turned into an actual outing, because I had to talk about it turned into a news story, Williams went to social media and a few live sites to explain herself. Now, her explanation, they did not go to Trump signs, houses with Trump signs specifically, because they tend to be more hostile. What the unofficial ruling is, unofficial basic policy is, if you're in an area where people are hostile to government workers, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, go away before I shoot you. They try to keep their people safe. So if they believe that someone will be hostile to them, they do what they can to reach out to them, but not too much, if you will. So about 20 or so houses did not get reached out because they had Trump signs on it, because the people who were basically the Trump supporters in these areas that she was covering tended to be a bit more rough on FEMA relief people showing up at the door asking for help, basically saying, I don't need no government help. It's also a bit ironic that many people supporting Trump and Trump's policies, which would essentially cut back on a whole lot of FEMA, are complaining about not getting aid from FEMA in this case. So trust me, as a person who leans towards the right and dealt with FEMA assistance here as a tornado went through my town and went through my house, I understand, one, how the government works in these things. Not exactly great, but what they offer is what they offer. And two, how the government works on these things. Never exactly great, but you have to deal with them because it's where things happen. Things must be officially licensed, if you will, officially put in place so that other things can happen. FEMA has to put in that report so that you can get more assistance and get more help in the area and for yourself. This is a very, very, very dumb, bad, stupid thing we're talking about here. And hopefully this unofficial policy becomes less of a policy, officially or unofficially, that happens in more disaster areas. Let's talk about Jim. Actually, we're not talking about Jim. We're talking about John Krasinski, who is named People's Sexiest Man Alive for 2024. But every time this whole thing pops up, everything he does, he's been in A Quiet Place, he's played Jack Ryan, he's done more action and suspense stuff, more cerebral stuff, well, I think of Jim Halpert. I think of The Office. I think of that guy with the dopey haircut playing pranks on Dwight in the office where they sold paper, and that's where it comes to. But John Krasinski, not a controversial one, is your people's sexiest man alive for this year, 2024. Now, Krasinski took it very humorously. He took it as a joke. It was announced on officially what he had an appearance on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and he said his wife was cool with it, but wished that the award meant he was then now bound to do more chores at home. He's really sexy. Well, that's great, but can he undo a dishwasher? Can he pick up after kids? Can he do some actual stuff? Can he just sweep every once in a while? His accolades, it goes along with great guys such as Patrick Dempsey, Chris Evans, and yes, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and of course, Blake Sheldon, who of course was panned the year he was voted that in. But hey, it's in the books, it's in history, it's there. Congratulations, John Krasinski. We'll always see you as Jim. I'm not sure how many times I've covered this one. I'm sure I covered it 3 or 4 different times, but it was such a big story again that we had to put it in there specifically for this one. And we are talking directly about the toys, the toys. First, it was Wicked's going to be 2 movies, which actually, after a while, people said, well, that means they'll put more stuff that's in the book into the musical movies because they can do more stuff. Expansion on the storyline. Yay, Wicked. And then they put up dolls from Mattel. You would think if the people wanted to mind meld and get me off the stories, they would screw up the next story. But this is one they're screwing up. Mattel put out the Wicked dolls by Barbie. There's one that looks like Elphaba and one that looks like Linda. Nice, pretty, beautiful. And on the box, because they're branded for the Wicked movie, there is website branding for the Wicked movie. Actually, no, there isn't website branding for Wicked movie. The Wicked movie can be found with their branding online at wickedmovie.com, as in the box had wicked.com, which sends you to a site that is rather, well, wicked. We'll just leave it at that. Please do not go to wicked.com. Please do not go to wicked.com. I say one more time, do not go to wicked.com. They basically ask people to return the boxes if they've not opened yet, or destroy the packaging, or make sure your kids don't scan that QR code going forward so they can get better stuff. But this is a case of marketing gone wild, and somebody should have spell checked it. And often, as I work in this business, work in these areas, work with people who do this stuff, they tend not to. Now, if the machines were going to overtake my brain and make me cough and fall over, you would think it'd be for this story here. At number 10, Pentagon received hundreds of reports of new UFO sightings. Earlier in the week, we had the discussion while we're wrapping up an election, and Congress is sort of playing golf. There's a couple guys showing up in the office in Congress, listening to a hearing, getting stuff done on a hearing about UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, formerly known as, or known most as UFO. UFP citing 751 sightings between May 1st, 2023 and June 1st of 2024. Within that span of the year, that's a lot of sightings. Pentagon's All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office had to sit there and talk about it going forward. There were hearings where people from the past came in and said, yeah, they're hiding stuff. This is some stuff they're hiding. 21 of these cases are called true anomalies. That means they don't know what they actually are, but most of the things they contribute to birds, balloons, or drones, things that they can say this is that. 444 reports are still under analysis, so it hadn't been cleared quite yet, but they're trying to find a way to make them sound like they're something of our reality, not of someplace unknown. The AARO faces challenges due to limited sensor data and collaborating with military and international partners to enhance data collection analysis. Essentially, they have sensors, they have technology, but they also have pilots who look up and say, "Hey, that thing was kind of weird. I'm going to say it's odd. I'm telling the truth." So sometimes you got to fight with the pilots and their maybe not lying eyes, so you cannot lie about the data to make it look like it's something real. You've seen some of the pictures out there. You've seen some of these things in actions. You've seen some of these people who are saying, "We've been hiding stuff for a long time. We've been hiding stuff for a long time." A update to the story at number 11. I'm going to give it to you as it was presented, but then small update, not quite exactly going through as planned. The Onion has won the bid for Infowars assets, and they plan to relaunch the Infowars in January of the next year, 2025, to do something that's going to be a bit interesting. The satirical news outlet, The Onion, will make the news outlet Infowars a satirical news outlet. Basically, taking Alex Jones's formula and making the lies even more lying, and then turning into something even more bombastic and having fun with it and making money. And it's sponsored by a group of people who are fighting for the environment, and it has all of the approval of the families of the Sandy Hook incident. You had to sell to somebody. They put it to auction, and the Onion won the results. Not only was the Onion a surprised they won on their own, but they went ahead and did all the talk over the new folks. They had a plan from get go. They're going to still sell some of his merch because it's in the closet. They are going to stop selling the supplements because that's a bit weird. But they are going to keep the publication alive and do something with all the assets, something with the studio, all that stuff as Infowars, not expand the Onion, just have the Onion and another outlet called the Infowars. Now, over the weekend, the judge in case basically has blocked that or put that on pause that they can actually put through with that transaction. I don't have that data here. We'll have that probably in tomorrow's version. We do things you might have heard how that will basically come to interaction with your engagement based on the 10 stories you have time for. But we do know this was a big deal when it happened, and coming into the weekend, coming past the deadline for stories here, we don't get the update until later. And the update is the Onion right now on a pause to go forward on the sale. And the final story we have for today, it is a sale, selling you more stuff. Say hello to crazy low prices from Amazon Haul. Amazon has taken on Temu and Sheen with discount Amazon Haul store. Things we price, around $20 or less, mostly $10. Some things as low as $1. Things that you find on the Sheen, you find on the Temu, things you find on the cheap Chinese sites that are selling you goods that are going to tear apart within days. But for more budget-friendly retailers like them, you can now stick with your Amazon shopping. Now, it'll be a separate app, a little separate dealio, and it's going to be a little different. Shipping is free for orders over $25 or $3.99 for anything that's not there. And delivery times are ranged from 1 to 2 weeks because it's still being shipped from some site in China that they're dumping it into. It's not in a store warehouse down the street with your Amazon Prime, but it is there. If you're ready to put all your bucks into something more American, I guess, you have Amazon Haul to do now, which will, of course, take on the roles of Temu and Shein in your life, which in reality means you'll still spend money with Temu, Shine, and Amazon Haul, and Amazon Prime, and Walmart Plus, and Target Deal, and just everybody. It's just one more service that's going to go into your wallet. So you actually won't save any money or save any time. You'll lose more because you're going to buy more. That's how we work in this. That's how we work. We understand that. It's just the way things go. Quick stop in to talk about our sponsor for this week, or every weekend, actually. We have Ground News is our sponsor for this show here. And we do Ground News sponsorships throughout the week in various objects we have. But Ground News is our official, long-time, good deal sponsor for the Conversation Project's weekly roundup. And Ground News is the place to get some of the best news around. Now, news is everywhere. Literally any place does that. Ground News gets your news from any place, every place. It gives you a good description of what it is you're actually getting into. So if you see a headline out someplace that seems a little outlandish, you go to Ground News and look for that story because most likely it's being covered by many folks, and they will aggregate where the coverage is. You'll get a chance to see whether it's covered more from a Republican standpoint, a red conservative view, or from a liberal or blue lefty view, Democratic view, or if it's more down the middle. They aggregate the news stories and links where they come from and tell you about the actual owner of the actual outlet or how they lean. Fox News, more right. MSNBC, way more left. AP, more or less straight down the middle, unless you tend to disagree with them. And they'll tell you what outlets are actually covering it the most with what's going on, with the more stories and the more basic coverage of it. They also have a blind spot feature where you can click on it and see what stories are being covered mostly by the right because the left doesn't want you to know about it, or they're writing in a way that makes it seem like it's a little more better or worse for whether they want to. Opposite for the blue side, for Democrats. If it's a story that makes a Democrat looks bad, the right will write more about it. If it makes Republicans look bad, the left will write more about it, and they'll do their best they can to let you know what's going on or keep it from you if it's against the party. Blind spot feature gives you that. This is the best news aggregator that's on the planet because they do just give you straight links. Something like what we do. Give you links to stuff, let you review it, and give you links to everything, everywhere it's covered, so you do not miss out on how things are being covered. You can still think what you want to, agree or disagree as you want to, but they're going to tell you how the coverage basically comes through based on their way of playing out there. So we have a chance for you to get half off the news for next year by going to this is a conversationproject.com/ground news. This is conversationproject.com/ground news. This is an affiliate link, so we're looking for you to use our link to get in on ground news. It can be less than $10 a month. You can get this news product all for yourself. You can find out more about the stories that you're looking for, how they're being covered, or maybe some stories that they're hiding from you because they actually are. Find it online at our website. This is conversationproject.com/ground news. That's our link in our sponsors page. Check out our sponsors page on the website, and you can see more sponsors, more people you can buy from that give us affiliate commissions. All our sponsors are affiliate commissions, so we need you to purchase from them. So they send some love to us. But it helps out you with great stuff. Ground News is a great service you get into. I use it to check stories back and forth, even stories that I know are all kind of bonkers. I see how Ground News is covering, so it helps me figure out how I want to cover it, why I want to cover it, if it's really a good idea, and more or less a timeline to get it in so that more people can engage. Find us online. Find it online at thisistheconversationproject.com. Click on the link from Ground News. Help us maintain going forward the things we have going here at the Conversation Project. Let's talk about our website and do more promotions for us to help keep things going here at the Conversation Project. Find us at thisistheconversationproject.com. Find our feeds, we'll talk more about in a moment, at Facebook, at X, also on Threads as well, where you can help us engage in the stories to get. We post news articles every 50 minutes from various news sources, and you just go to those feeds, click on our links so we get some credit for bringing you to them and engage in them so we get credit for that one. And the credit you give us, we give it back to you in picking the stories you want to talk about. On Monday, we'll give you 10 stories. On Tuesday through Friday, 8 stories from the top ranking stories, top engaged stories based on timeline. For the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, some more days, more time. So we'll give you 10 stories from the most engaged stories there. The rest of the week, we'll give you 8 stories, most engaged stories, and you get a chance to see how we did. Tell us how what we're doing or how not what we're doing. And then come Saturday, Sunday, hopefully Saturdays, we give you this wrap up, roundup of stories that were some of the bigger ones over the week that caught my attention that probably need another take a look at. Yes, it was a whole lot of Trump again, a whole lot of election stuff because we still have plenty of aftermath. This will be a deal where we're doing a lot of how Trump is handling things up until somewhere around January 20th when Inauguration Day happens, and a few months into that, once things actually fall into place. But the chaos and confusion, and right now not knowing what's happening, those are my words, is a big deal. So we're going to talk about it as possible. And you tell me that they're conversational, that means we're going to talk about it as much as possible. Now, real quick, one way you can help us out at the Conversation Project that's not following us in the feeds or following, liking, sharing, subscribing, is becoming a partner, becoming an actual person who is helping us out financially and with your ideas. We send out a special newsletter and video single week to our partners on how things are going behind the scenes. If you want to get that newsletter on a regular basis, I release something like every 2-3 months to the general public, usually when I'm really sad and it doesn't really help. But you can find out more about what goes on behind the scenes and actually poke the bear to make sure things are working towards your angle by becoming a partner. A couple of coffee level partners include Harold Braxton, Colby Glenn, and Eldon Kidd. And our spirit change partner is Joy Winters. Buymeacoffee.com/J Cleveland Payne will get you into the tier you want to get to. And there are even higher tiers if you feel the need. We try to be good stewards of your funds, and you know that this is how the internet works these days. Partnerships makes things go around. So if you want to be a partner, help a brother out, help things keep going and get your stuff. We'll probably start shortening this partner things, but because other people have shorter partner calls to action, they also have more partners. So if you want to help me shorten my partner call to action, become a partner today. As little as $1 a month. Spare change. It's that simple. $1 a month goes into our coffers. We don't charge you for the fee, so we get 70 cents or so from the actual donation, and you can help fund the Conversation Project. Don't think that 70 cents is not going to be well received. Trust me. Now, the final talk on the calls to action. Our website. This is the conversationproject.com. Our email address, conversationinbox@gmail.com. Visit our website for more links to past shows, more links to more information, and subscribe to our email newsletter there. Email us as you please. Conversationinbox@gmail.com. We take every email, every suggestion, everything you say in consideration, even the mean things. We listen to them all. Our feeds that matter are facebook.com/this is the conversation project and x.com/th_conversation. They give us real stats we can look at for your engagement and we can tell what stories you want to talk about. You can go to Threads and you can go to Blue Sky and you can see those as well. And they help sometimes, but we get real decent stats. X is a little these days, but we get real stats and see real engagement numbers and how people are acting, and of course, comments and things like that. The higher you give us in engagement, better chance of these stories being shows for the Daily Show Monday through Friday with things you might not have heard, and this weekend show as well. With that, we have wrapped up the entire roundup for the week ending November 16th, 2024. I am Jay Cleveland Payne. I apologize for the Sunday production of the show. So Sunday evening, and it's the best football games of the weekends right now. Kansas City at Buffalo. So yeah, I'm missing it too. But we're glad you popped in this thing live. We had some live people pop in there. Really appreciate you guys. Or if you watch this sometime later in the evening or Monday, Tuesday, getting the roundup, we appreciate you. Give us a comment. Let us know what we're doing, how well we're doing, and talk about the stories inside because that's how we know we have the right stories picked for you. Engage with our headlines on our feeds. Check out our website. This is theconversationproject.com. Be good to each other. Be good to each other and consider being a partner. I am Jake and Payne wrapping up the roundup for this week. We will find out tomorrow, literally tomorrow, what stories lasted the weekend for the first edition of things you might not have heard for the week. Also, a what's old is new again. We will do a older format for the things you might not know. Bringing back the kicker story for the day. That's coming back as well. And of course, the big thing is 10 stories that lasted from Friday to early Monday morning to let you guys know what we saw you guys looking at and what the world should be chatting up and not just something weird Trump done this weekend. And he did a bunch of weird stuff. And yes, we'll talk Mike Tyson tomorrow on the Monday edition of things you might not have heard because he's definitely in there. So we'll get more Tyson there. But there is already a video in the queue already popped up that they would produce on Saturday so we can get some Tyson love and oddly enough, some Jake Paul love on for the weekend. So check those out. You will enjoy them immensely. Hopefully you enjoyed what we had today going forward, despite I see some internet glitches and some coughs and burps. Sometimes live stuff is hard. Working my breathing techniques. We'll get better. You'll help us get better. We'll talk to you again come Monday.